So, despite being a little late to the subject, I think it's time we have a little chat about the latest Sea of Thieves adventure and why it wants to make me cry in not just one way, but in two ways. It's definitely sparked some debate, some controversy, and most importantly, some discussions about pirate game politics. A Hunter's Cry is the 6th adventure to come to Sea of Thieves and marks the close of our second arc. Adventures are told in mini arcs of 3 adventures, with the last of the trilogy being the climax, both in story and gameplay. The Shrouded Deep was the first example of this, and A Hunter's Cry is the second. The adventure starts with Lorena bothering us again about yet another favour. The tab is racking up by the day. She asks us to speak to Ramsey at the dock and he'll let us know how we're going to save Merrick. We speak to Ramsey, who's recruiting pirates to head to the Sea of the Damned to rescue him, which he's agreed to use the Veil of the Ancients to further this aim. We agree and he opens up the portal for us, the same ones we used during a pirate's life. Once we enter the tunnels of the Damned, he gives us yet another speech about what to expect on the other side. It's at this point we're matchmaking for other crews. Eventually, you'll sail into the portal, into an instance in the Sea of the Damned, a shared server with other crews, if you will. These crews are able to damage and kill you with instant respawns and no trips to the ferry. If you sink, you respawn by the gate. Ramsey had previously let us know that the lighthouses are the key to saving Merrick. At each lighthouse, you have to unlock them using the Flame of Souls. You can head to the top to light a brazier, the same one we used in A Pirate's Life and Captains of the Damned. It's the same trick here, light the beacons with the lighthouse. When we head to the Sea Dog Tavern, we have to unlock the anchor, which, in turn, opens up a simplified parkour course to reach the top. This is unlocked by lighting smaller braziers around the main tavern. To complete the parkour course, you have to head back and forth between the course and 2 of the lighthouses to unlock each new component. This is done by lighting beacons by hand or with the lighthouse itself. Finally, you reach the top and speak to Merrick, which plays the final cutscene. And phew, that's the worst bit over. Merrick chooses to live his life as a ghost due to the Brethren threatening to chase him forever to obtain his secrets. We're all teleported out the portal, with Ramsey giving us another speech and asking us to return to Lorena for one last task. Lorena has a favour to ask, no shit, and we're tasked with delivering Merrick's final letter to Seric, thus ending one of the most heart-wrenching scenes in Sea of Thieves and wrapping up A Hunter's Cry. But how do we feel about the adventure? Well, it's complicated. The adventure is excellent on paper, but when you get into the nitty-gritty, it soon falls apart. The idea of travelling to the Sea of the Damned again is excellent, and Rare made this pretty obvious during Legend of the Veil. I'm sure we weren't surprised that this was in a story mission and not so much a map expansion. The atmosphere this time is so much more sinister than the fairground ride of A Pirate's Life, but ultimately not as unique or interesting. This isn't helped by the asset dump and subsequent spruce up from 2 other buildings found elsewhere in the game. But how much effort do we really expect for a time-limited piece of content? Either way, it's much stronger in that regard than the other adventures. Again, the voice acting and overall story is great. I have my personal gripes with this arc, but objectively it was pretty decent. Outside of this, A Hunter's Cry goes downhill though. The main bone of contention is the PvP being turned on, but I think this issue extends way deeper than this. Let me make this clear, for those who wanted to TDM with each other there, that's great. I even tested some portal shenanigans with Foxdie earlier this week, and we had a little 1v1. It was a shitload of fun, and we didn't bother anyone else who wanted to do the adventure. I even ran into these guys. They killed me a couple times but realised who was TDMing and who wasn't, so they just stuck to their own thing. On the other hand, the shitters of the community were keen to take advantage of an enclosed space to actively ruin other players' experiences, by of course spawn camping them. I don't care what anyone says, you've got no reason to do this. It's not because it's a PvP game, it's not because it's a pirate game, it's not because you're role playing. You're just doing it to be an asshole. Yeah, I can see the comments already. It's a PvP game, get over it. I've seen these asinine comments before. Ultimately though, it's expected. And not only was the outcry predicted, but it was also validated when Rare changed the crew limits earlier this week to cap the number of crews on a server. Personally, I don't see how Rare thought people were going to behave. Some people have a little bit too much freedom to behave in bad faith on the internet. My poll showed around half the people who attempted the adventure ran into spawn campers too. It's a small sample size, but yeah, the patterns seem quite consistent across the board. I clearly understand the intention from Rare here, the idea that Sea of Thieves is a shared world sandbox and adventures shouldn't be eroding that. The conditions, on the other hand, just set this up for a disaster. The Shrouded Deep made sense to have an element of co-op or even betrayal, as this replicated the Hungering Deep, and Rare even dropped Lou into the mix for that one. But A Hunter's Cry doesn't even make sense, aside from one reason which I'll get to soon. I'm going to go a step further and say I really wouldn't be that receptive to this adventure if PvP was turned off entirely. One of the best parts about Sea of Thieves' story, previously told through Tall Tales, is that most of the time you can experience the story story beats by yourself. It allows you to be truly immersed in that story moment. From Flameheart's return to Rose and George being released, it just sucked you in. This time round, it just feels the opposite to me. The people I matchmade with were honestly fine. They all seemed pretty green and had no idea what to do, so I ended up doing all of the braziers. The problem with me doing this is that you can activate the final cutscene with one person and you can miss the cutscene entirely, or hell, even the session can end the moment you get into the Sea of the Damned. Luckily, I knew about the shortcut and was the only one who knew how to trigger the cutscene. We did get the nice ending, but nothing takes you out of the moment than some dickhead playing Happy Birthday on his hurdy-gurdy. It also makes for some pretty shite footage. This is going to sound so whiny, but when I experience the Sea of Thieves story, I want to be engrossed in every single piece of dialogue, every cutscene and every set piece. But between the scramble to help others and the shit is breathing down my neck, I rush through this and I won't be touching it again. It's such a shame too, as this adventure would have been so highly rated if it was a single crew experience. It would probably even be the best so far. All of this hard work of several months to cause crappy videos like this, arguments in the community, and stigma toward adventures as a whole. That's the first reason why A Hunter's Cry makes me want to cry. The second is super simple and it's positive this time. I think giving Merrick's letter to Serek is probably the biggest tearjerker in this story. You can say Rose and George was sad, but we know Merrick so much better. He's been with us since Hungering Deep, he helped start the Hunter's Call, he helped take down the Shrouded Ghost, and even helped some of you save Golden Sands. As much as he's the quote-unquote enemy for me, Merrick is such a damn good character. His sacrifice was such a poignant moment, cemented by the ending of this adventure. It's just a shame the arc has been tarnished by this controversy. Lost Sands was a great start in terms of how great the community can be, Forsaken Hunter was fine, pretty standard, and the ending was dampened by the multi-crew adventure in A Hunter's Cry. At least we should be back on track with a Siren's Prize in September. The adventures have so much potential, but Rare, please don't squander it with decisions like this. Finally, there is one possible silver lining to this whole adventure controversy. Rare was adamant to keep PvP on throughout this adventure, but for what reason? My friend Vlex suggested this could be a tech test for a Sea of the Damned expansion next year. It's a really good prediction. We haven't had any PvP on instance adventure servers yet, and A Pirate's Life happened on private servers. So what if Rare's used this to test new servers for a map expansion instance in the Sea of the Damned? It's entirely possible and would make sense why no one has confirmed the design reasoning behind this. Anyway, that's just a little bit of food for thought. So that's it, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please drop a like and subscribe. And please let me know how you feel about A Hunter's Cry down in the comments below. We're taking a bit more of a detailed look at adventures on Sunday, so please stick around for that. I think you're all going to like that video. Thanks again for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.